I'm going to get so I can see the chat. And all right, everybody. Hi, Carolyn from Mommy Ramblings. To those of you that don't know me, today I'm speaking with, is it Brian? Is it Belefant? Like elephant? How do you pronounce that?
It's Belefant, but
Belefant.
Okay. Belefant, so
yeah, it's fine. Belefant, like font, like text. Okay, I'll try to remember that. The Sultan of Garbage is the novella from Brian, and Brian is an award-winning photographer, ad writer, and author, and he confronts the meaning of life, art, and clutter in just 82 little pages in here, right? So it's an easy read. Bring it to the beach, you'll be done in the day, right? So, and you write a lot of short stories, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, because you're the best person to do that.
Oh, I'm probably not the best person because I don't really like the whole self-promotion thing. But okay. So I started out in advertising as a writer, and I learned I learned the craft of writing, learned how to do it really efficiently. And in advertising, there are two parts. There's the verbal and the visual. So I thought I was deficient in the visual, and that's what got me into photography. I figured I would jump in head first with that. And I got pretty good at that to the point where, I won some awards. I did some good things.
Right.
And and to me, it's not really, it takes a certain amount of maturity to write, for lack of a better word, literature, serious writing. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to talk about products, but when you want to get into like stuff about what do things mean or how you work stuff out, you have to have a lot of, some laps under your belt, which is a terrible metaphor. Anyway, so I kind of got to the point a couple of years ago where I'm like, maybe I'm ready. And I started writing serious stuff, and that's what got me into short stories, and I've written a couple of novels, and now this novella, and I'm kind of loving it.
Are you? Good. That's good. You got to love what you do, right? And I think like when I was reading this, you love photography, obviously, and you can, get a lot of your photography. And I understand a lot of it, like how when it moved to digital and we have all the little SD cards, because I'm like a hobby photographer, and I have a little studio in my house that I had when, especially when my kids were small, because I was tired of taking them to Sears and stuff and not getting the pictures I wanted. So I created a little Sears photo studio with the little backdrops that pull down on my third floor, and I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. And people are like, you took those pictures? Yeah. And I took all the corny ones with the fake bubbles and the big tubs, those galvanized tubs. But, so I got your message here about how like our photography has changed. And now the funny thing is my daughter is going back into film now, shooting with film. And all the millennials now, they want the old film cameras.
Isn't it fantastic? It's amazing. And every time we think technology is dead, it's like the vinyl records. I mean, we thought we were replacing those with CDs, and now all the young people want vinyl. It's like,
I know.
Hey, okay.
Right, and we thought like a few years ago, like speaking of trash, right? That nobody's going to ever go back to vinyl. Get rid of all that. It has no value. And now they all want them. They're at all the thrift stores, and it's crazy.
That's amazing.
So tell us, the Sultan of Garbage, if we're just looking at this, you might think it's just about, tell us what it's about, what inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me, I think, is just dealing with, I have a lot of, for lack of a better word, clutter in my life. And it's not just things. Mm. It's, relationships, ideas, people, things, stuff. And it's kind of been rattling around in my head. A lot of it comes down to dealing with, with COVID, there were a lot of relationships that kind of lapsed. And then as we opened back up, some of them never reemerged. Mm-hmm. My mom, I was taking care of her for the past 3 years. She finally, she passed away in March.
Sorry to hear that.
And she has stuff, and I had to spend months going through her stuff, which a lot of it was meaningful to her and honestly not meaningful to me, but I didn't want to disrespect dishonor her feelings about it, and just thinking about clutter. And I guess that's really where this book came from. It's all about the clutter in our lives, both individually and as a society.
Okay, and it's a little, you have a girlfriend in there who has a lot of quirks. She doesn't like to be touched if it's not invited. She sleeps through anything, where the character is annoyed by the birds in the morning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, this is an important aspect of the book for me is, one of the elements of clutter is the relationships and relationships that people hold on to, both romantic and friendly, that, aren't serving them. And what does that mean and how do we deal with that? And
right. And I think everybody has baggage. My saying was, please just let it fit in the overhead console. When you've got it, when you're checking it in, that might be like a little bit too much. But if you can get it just to fit in the overhead console, because everybody has it, especially when you get to a certain age, right? We've all got it, and it comes from different directions. But so this Pacific island, what is this? An island
Garbage
of all
patch.
the plastic? Is it? It's a real place, right? All this. There is.
So there is a Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Yeah, garbage patch.
Which is one of, there's actually two, if you want to be specific about it, in the Pacific. There's the Eastern Pacific Garbage Patch, which is the one that's sort of the most famous because it's huge. It's bigger than Texas. And then there's the Western Pacific Garbage Patch, which is off the coast of Japan. And they're formed by swirls of currents and winds and all that. And it's sort of, this stuff congeals. The other oceans have them as well. And it's just all the crap that gets dumped into the ocean. I mean, most of it sinks. I think I read 70% of that garbage sinks to the bottom, but the stuff that floats sort of comes together. And so I created a fantastical version of this for the book. That's not accurately what it is in the world. Most of it is microplastics because plastics, fall apart, degrade, sun, wind, salt, all that. And they become these very tiny little particles of plastic that get eaten by sea creatures, enter the food chains, and nobody knows for sure what that means.
Right.
But there's a lot of it out there.
Yeah. And then so your character is kind of a little bit like yourself, right? Because he is a photographer. And,
character's a photographer. Yeah, and a lot of it, his character is based on what I learned having been a photographer and a director.
Right. And then you charter this yacht out to this garbage patch.
Yeah. So the guy in the story, he's dissatisfied with his life. There's really no focus to his dissatisfaction. Nothing's going on. He's come into some money, and he just gets a notion one night after his girlfriend doesn't want him to touch her, just to go see where all the garbage goes. And that's the start of the story. That's where it happens.
Right. And now, does your novella owe a small debt to the Metamorphoses?
It does in a couple of ways. One is it's within 100 words of the same length. And when I first wrote it, I don't go, I'm writing a novel or I'm writing a short story. I just write. And what ends up happening is I have a manuscript, and the manuscript was this long. And I thought, well, this is sort of an in-between. What am I going to do with it? And at the time, I'm in a big book group, and we read The Metamorphosis, and I realized, it's the same length. So it can be a thing. I mean, it's not like I didn't know that novellas existed, but, it could stand alone as its own piece. And that's one of the debts that it owes to the Metamorphosis, but it's kind of the bigger one. And it's not really the Metamorphosis, but in this book club that I'm in, this new guy showed up the week we had read the Metamorphosis. And I hated it. I thought it was terrible. Nothing worked. I didn't like the characters, the structure, the descriptions, any of it. And as we're sitting there, this guy, Sasha, was next to me. He sort of mumbled 6 words, and it was like a door opened, and I'm like, I got the book. Not only did it make sense, it was perfect. It was brilliant when I understood where the book was coming from. And so the debt I owe is actually to Sasha for making me understand a book that I hated so much that I now really love it. And my hope is that somewhere out there's a Sasha for this book.
Okay.
Somebody will go, here's why it made sense to me, and maybe that'll open the door for some other people.
Right, and I'm excited. Today is the day it debuts, right? It's available, and we have the link pinned up in our chat for the book on Amazon, and we have it in our video description as well as your website. So, but tell us a little bit about the types of commercials. You're in the Pacific Northwest as well, right? You live out there.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm here on the East Coast. So, and I've never been out there. My daughter did. We have a lot of viewers that live out there too. We have viewers all over the world. But have you always lived out there?
No, as a matter of fact, I mostly lived in New York and LA for career reasons.
Okay.
Working in the advertising business, I wanted to be, at the highest levels that I could get to. And so I worked ad agencies in New York and LA, and then when I moved into directing, most of the work came from New York and LA. But then when my then wife got pregnant, I couldn't imagine raising children in either New York or LA. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of threw a dart at the map and hit Portland, and it's like we won the lottery. This is a magnificent place to raise children. It's a great community. There's a lot of heart here, and I'm so glad. We've been here, now my daughter's 17, so we've been here 18 years. My son's 16 and went through the divorce. It's, she's 2 miles away. Virginia, the kids are doing great. My daughter's on fire. I'm so proud of her. It's been great. I love it here.
I saw your Instagram, and I said, I looked at your kids, and then I saw that how many years ago it was. I said, I think they're the ages of my 2 youngest, and I wasn't too far off. My one son is 1 year younger. I have a 15, 17. But yeah. So
13 was hard, huh?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the pandemic and other reasons. Yeah, it was. It was hard on them, but they rallied, and they're doing well too, very well. So,
that's good.
It's we just, like I just said, we just came back from a little whirlwind few days. We took off to try to get your time when you can with them, and it was fun. We had a good time. So, but tell me about now. It rains a lot out there, doesn't it?
That's kind of a misperception. It does rain a lot, but the rain is, except for a lot of times in the winter, it's mostly drizzle. And I happen to love the drizzle. It kind of gets hard in March, the worst month here, because it's both the lack of light. We're north enough that the days are pretty short in the winter, and the hard rains do come. And then we get these 2 spectacular weeks in February almost every year. And the hard part is when winter comes back, because you think it's over and it hits you for maybe sometimes another 6 weeks. Sometimes it goes until June, with the rains and stuff. Mm-hmm. But other than that, even that is great. I mean, you probably saw my Instagram with the flowers. The flowers here are magnificent. Yeah. Starting in late January, early February, all the way through summer. It's beautiful.
Right, yeah. I mean, like winter, I'm in New York, of course, now. And the winters, since I do a live show that's been better because I have interaction every day with people, it can get a lot. And so in the years that I've been doing the live show every day, the time just seems, as we're getting older too, to just flying by. It's like crazy, right? Yeah. Stop. It's nuts. Yeah. So, that part has been easier, but like before, it could feel like you were like shut in, like, because we'd get the snows and you weren't going out and the kids were at home from school, and it was a lot. So we have this snow, but rain can be really depressing to me too. But I don't know. They're the perfect place somewhere. I don't know. I think I'd like to be maybe a snowbird. I can't do it now with my kids' ages, but go down south. South Carolina I really like, but we'll see how that goes out. So, let me see what I have here. So
what part of New York are you in?
I'm in upstate New York, but not too far upstate, only about an hour and a half outside of New York City.
So
in the Catskills? In the
Catskills, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very nice. We get a lot of people that work in New York, like a lot of actors and stuff live up here because it's not too far out. We have a lot of artists. So we have a lot of great culture here. And with COVID, a lot of them moved permanently up here. And the funny thing about it is, I'll tell you a funny story. And my daughter, so I can say this, the Brooklynites, my daughter is among them now, have these ideas of vintage prices, and those that live in the real world up here and know what it was. So there'll be thrift stores in the same town. One will have a owl lamp for $2,300, okay, and the store right up there, has it for $20. So it's like and people say, well, that's the old town, this is the new town. But these people come in and they have no problem. And we just laugh. And I say, they're buying those vintage glasses for that much money. Like, this is crazy, right? But I said, what happens? Like, they just don't know that they can get that a lot cheaper, or they just don't care. I don't know what it is. So you're talking about vinyl records and all that stuff. They buy all that at like 10, 20 times the price. It doesn't faze them.
Yeah, it is funny. My kids don't have a realistic sense of money, which, in a way is sort of good. They don't really want anything, so they don't. My daughter wants to have a job because she's responsible, but she doesn't want to buy anything. I love that.
Yeah, no, they don't. And my daughter, speaking to my daughter, she knows she wouldn't pay that. She was laughing with me. We went into she said, how much is that owl lamp? And the guy said, just 23. And it was 2,300, okay, not dollars. And so I said, oh boy, that's too bad. They don't have two of them, because you really need two of them, right? And she's like, yeah. And he thought he goes, well, let me write your name down, and if they do get another one, I'll give you a call. Okay, thanks so much. But my daughter, for them, the millennials, it's travel. She just came back from Vienna, where she was going to see Taylor Swift, and they had a terrorist scare, so the concerts were canceled, but she said she had the greatest time. She loves Vienna, and she wants to go back, so she travels all over the world, and it's experiences over things.
Fantastic. I commend that. I think that's, part of it is, as you get older, how many things do you need?
Right.
But yeah, I think experiences, that's what you collect for me.
Do you think, and we're probably around the same age or in the same age group, so do you think it's
that's
like people of our age kind of have a nostalgia with something that when they were young, and so if they bring out a toy or something that you had when you were young, you have a little bit of, oh my gosh, I'd like to have that. I don't know if it brings back our youth or a memory or something, and that's kind of why this vintage stuff resonates.
Absolutely. I was in the store with my daughter the other day, and they had Bit-O-Honey, and I don't know why I hadn't seen it, but when I was a kid, I loved those, and yeah, we got it. It's just not that yeah, it tastes the same, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But just the memory of it is so powerful.
Right. Yeah. And, it's like that with anything, but you mentioned this character has a chair and he names Ernie. And then, so about how you acquire, how the character acquired these items, especially the espresso machine, which was on a beautiful table, but the table didn't fare so well.
Yeah.
Right. So, is that a little bit like your character? Did you like to go to garage sales and stuff for finds, or is that totally not like you?
In a lot of ways, it is a lot like me. I like the story about the espresso machine is not my experience, but I ended up when my son was 9 months old, and the only way you could get him to stop screaming was to put him in the car. I remember driving around at starting 3:30 in the morning with him in the car, and when it got to be, it was I think a Saturday or Sunday, and it got to be light enough, somebody had a garage sale, and I thought, stop and look, and I found this espresso machine, this Pavoni, that they were selling for $20. They'd gotten it as a wedding gift, and they couldn't figure out how to make it go, and to me that was one of my treasures. And it wasn't that it was $20, it was just, there's a story, and I think for me, that's similar to what I was building in this character with the chair that he names Ernie. An object, maybe this is what I'm trying to say, stuff has more meaning when there's a story with it, and it goes to the thing about experiences too. So my espresso machine has meaning to me, not because it's an espresso machine, not because it was $20, because every time I look at it, it reminds me of driving around with my son at 3:30 in the morning and, finally not screaming in the back of the car.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings me a story about a friend of mine. He was one of my first moderators on this channel. She's been with me. all she would tell me is to look out for this Singer sewing machine that's called a featherweight. And she said, and I thought it was a child sewing machine because it's very small, right? So I go, oh, there's a little kid sewing machine. She goes, no, Carolyn, if you ever find one, she goes, at a garage sale or something, and somebody doesn't know what it is. And there's a lot of people that don't know what stuff is when they're like you were cleaning your mother's house, right? You may not know if she had a sewing machine, like what that is. Oh, it looks like a kid's sewing machine. So there are many cases where people will get these, and they're like the holy grail to a quilter, these little tiny Singers, because they never die, but they don't look like anything more than a child sewing machine. They come in a box that looks like a record case, okay? So for 5+ years, she's been telling me this. Anytime I go to a vintage store, I went to a vintage store with my daughter a few weeks ago, and this was one of the high-priced ones where we just looked around and like laughed at the prices of depression glass and everything. So we get to this area, there's these sewing machines, and I see this box, and I thought it was supposed to be black, the box. So I said to my daughter, open that box. I look in, I see this tiny little machine. I said, what's the price on that? Because I know, like she tells me, these are going to go minimum $500. So this has a really low price. And I said, that can't be the machine she's telling me. So I said, let me take a picture, because I tried to call her. We had no service in that town. And I took a picture of everything, went home. Later that night, I told her, just as an afterthought, hey, you know what? I thought I saw a featherweight at the store, but it had a really low price tag, and it was in a really expensive store that would know what it is. And so she's like, show me the picture. Show her the picture. And she's like, Carolyn, that is not only a featherweight, okay, that is one of the rarest colors.
Ooh.
And then the other moderator is looking it up, telling me it's worth $1,300. They're like, get to the store first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, I am at that store, right? But playing it cool. And then I just, oh, you know what? Oh, this is so cute. I think I'll take this. Oh, okay. You know, and I walked out with it. And but it's fun to find something like that, like maybe your coffee maker, because you find it out there. You're not really like expecting it. And you have a story about it. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's fun. Like she says, you found one out in the wild. That's what she tells me, you know? So, yeah, if you can, I mean, that's a great thing. And I think, you know, we all have certain things, but it is, the millennials are completely the opposite of a lot of us. They want to live a very minimalist life, and will they ever regret it? And so it comes to the point that us as their parents have all this stuff that they're probably not going to want, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have those dilemmas, too. I mean, what are your favorite things to collect besides that coffee maker?
Well, I do like the experiences, and I use photography often as an excuse to travel. I'm not very good at taking vacations and relaxing, but I do this thing with photography where I photograph through liquids, and the liquids are meant to be relevant. So, like I went to Turkey and I shot through Turkish coffee, stuff like that. When I can give myself sort of an assignment, then it allows me to go someplace that I wouldn't ordinarily go, and it forces me to see things, because I'm a wanderer, and I'll just wander around. Like I wandered around Havana for probably a week and a half, taking pictures through a liquid I made out of cigar tobacco. And so that's kind of the most of the stuff that I collect. I also like to collect, I love art, but specifically I have this weird thing for messed up faces. And so whenever I'm traveling particularly, I'll go to street art fairs and see what people have. And my favorite piece was something I got in Havana for $35 at one of those, street couple of artists putting up their work. And I love it. It makes me, I don't know, somebody called them trophies, and I guess they are trophies, but they're not trophies I show to anybody really but myself.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And Kelly says in the chat, I'm buying this book. Okay.
Oh, thanks, Kelly.
I know. It's like, let's see. So let me see what I have down here. So we would you describe what Alex goes through in The Sultan of Garbage as a midlife crisis?
I suppose it's a midlife crisis. He is a middle-aged guy, and he's had moderate success, and now he's disillusioned not only with his career trajectory, but with the fact that he's getting a bigger picture of the work he's doing. At one point, he describes taking photographs of products as putting sparkle on trash so that people will find it appealing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's becoming a little cynical about the work, and this is his way of trying to figure it out. I don't think the way I've tried to write him is he's not aware that he's dealing with this, but it should be, I hope, apparent that that's what he's going through.
Okay. All right. And what creative projects are you currently working on?
Oh,
Tell us a little bit about that.
I just finished recently a draft of a novel that is making me so happy.
Oh, good.
It's nuts. It's a thriller about a retired assassin who he's trying to connect with his 14-year-old son, and his wife has recently died, and he's grieving her death. And all of a sudden, he gets captured and sent to a secret prison in the Middle East. And it's snarky, and that's what makes me so happy because I love snark.
Yeah, I picked up on that, and I mean, I pick up on it, and I can be sarcasm, but I don't do it to hurt people. It's just, but that's how we grew up in our family, and it's something that we do endearingly. It's not, like I said, it's not a cruel sarcasm. It's just funny, and that sarcasm is not like I know I have a nephew that married a girl from the Midwest, and she didn't understand it at all. And it was a real issue because when you come from a certain way of doing it, it's like changing your whole personality, right? And it's hard. So it doesn't always.
It is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but
my partner and I talk about that a lot because she's from New York, actually, upstate New York, and I worked in New York and LA, and there are different ways to communicate in every place that you are, without being too derisive. In Portland, it's called Portland nice, which is similar to the LA, sort of everybody's nice to you, but nobody wants to get to know you. In Portland, people tend to be nice to a fault, and it's not like they're flipping you off as you walk away, but there's an insincerity to it a lot of times. Whereas in New York, people will tell you to your face, you're being a dick, and it's like, it doesn't mean anything other than, stop it.
Right, yeah. So, it's different. I know, like I was saying the other day on the show, like even like in this area, there's a lot of Yiddish terms that we use every single day that people don't get in other parts of the world. So they'd be like, what are you talking about? You schlepped your groceries up.
Yeah.
Like what is she even talking about? So, there's a lot of, just different changes, in our dialect, everything. Can you share with us the TV commercials you're most proud of? Yeah,
so I was very fortunate. I got some boondoggles of TV commercials, and one of my favorites was when I got to go to Namibia to shoot a Samsonite commercial. And it was a long time ago, but it was the one where the suitcase falls out of the sky and the native tribe finds it. And so we actually worked with a semi-nomadic tribe in Africa called the Himba, and it was an eye-opening experience. This was probably the thing that set me on the path to questioning, am I putting sparkle on trash to make it appealing? Because we were so remote. There was no electricity, no plumbing, no any of that stuff. These people lived in huts. They herded goats. And we had to bring in 9 suitcases in case if 8 of them broke, we'd still have the 9th. There was no way to get more from headquarters. And as we were leaving, we worked with these people for 2 weeks, and the idea was they got to use these suitcases, and oh look, even a semi-nomadic tribe will find utility in this beautiful, sparkly suitcase. And we offered them the suitcases, and they were like, nah. They had no use for it. And it made me sort of go, wow, we're trying to build this thing up.
Right.
And it really doesn't connect. But that was such a fun commercial for a lot of reasons. One, I got to work with wonderful, wonderful people. The second is I got to expose myself to this group of people that are, pre-industrial. And, I got to see this. I got to experience it. We had dinner with them. We ate the gruel that they eat every day and did the dance that they do around the campfire. Um, and I got to go to a part of the world that most people, in this culture are only vaguely aware of, if they're aware of it all. And that's what I loved so much about the commercials. I did spots in Spain, Buenos Aires. It was kind of a dumb spot for Oral-B, but I got to go to Buenos Aires for 2 weeks to shoot a spot
Hey.
for that. It was a great, great experience getting to work on these things. And my only regret is that I didn't have one more big one before I sort of pulled out of that and moved to Portland to take care of my special needs son.
And Kevin says he remembers neat. I remember that commercial, he says. So great. And
So he's really our age.
Yeah, the commercials are on your website, and the website is listed in the video description. So, because I was looking at that earlier today too. Let's see what else. Tell us what's more fun, writing cool TV commercials for big brands, or snapping award-winning photos, or writing books. What's the most fun?
Well, they're fun in different ways. The photography allows me to be an observer without it being a participant.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I am an introvert by nature. The writing allows me to figure out what I need to deal with, whatever that is. In this book, it's clutter. In the novel I was talking about, it's some of the stupidity of our society. A lot of the bureaucracies and American cultural imperialism and stuff like that. The commercials, though, I never laughed as hard as I did when I worked with the advertising people. It was a wonderful, beautiful group of people. And I know there are a lot of people who have a picture of advertising people as manipulative and slimy. That is not my experience at all. It was a group of people that I'm still very close with, many of those people. Kind, ethical, to a fault ethical people who worked very, very hard. They wanted to do their very best under, sometimes very difficult circumstances. And I had such a blast doing it.
Right.
So I don't know. I miss the one I'm not doing at that moment.
Right. Yeah. Everything had its own appeal to it, for different reasons. Absolutely. I get it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Throughout the Sultan of Garbage, Alex talks to himself, and often out loud. Is that a habit of yours?
Sort of. Not to the degree that I wrote it in the book, but I do ask myself questions, and then I try to answer them, and then I ignore my answer if I don't like it, which this character does more than I do, I hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see here. What are your views on the man-made problems of excessive consumption and waste? Alex is a successful photographer and a millionaire. Why should your readers feel sorry for him?
Okay, let me answer that sort of backwards. I don't think necessarily that the readers should feel sorry for him. I'm hoping that readers will identify with some of what he's going through, which is basically questioning, which goes back to the first part of the question. I'm probably skewed because I've worked in advertising and marketing for so many years. But I'm kind of convinced that one of the problems, the pre-problems that causes so many of the other problems in our world is excessive consumption and waste. If we didn't consume so much and we didn't waste so much, we wouldn't have problems with, trash, but also depletion of resources. I think there are a lot of societal problems that can be traced to consumption. We're presented with this world. One of the things that I think I find a lot of difficulty with in our culture is we're presented with options. Remember when, back when we were coming up, if you were a smoker, you could identify with the Marlboro Man or the Camel Lights guy. There were identities that you could put on. Mm-hmm. That has multiplied to the degree that every day you can adapt a different personality based on the clothing that you wear, the way you do your hair, if you happen to have hair, which I don't, makeup, the accessories that you carry. And so our temptation is to accumulate these potential personalities, identities, whatever, archetypes. And in the world of advertising and marketing, it was our job to craft those. So I'm responsible to a degree for helping people obtain, desire things that
think they
don't
need that thing. They have to have it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. But,
yeah,
there's
but I do
something.
think that if we,
Go ahead. I'll remember.
no, it's just, kind of back to that I think is one of the underlying problems of our society. And I'm not casting it as all negative because I like stuff. There's a reason for stuff. We want to live in a comfortable, happy society. But I do think there's a lot of excess.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I have two things I want to say. So I think of George Carlin with the excess, right? We need stuff to put our stuff in so we can get more stuff and we can organize our stuff and it's on. But a lot of times people buy stuff or want stuff because it fills a void. It's either they're trying to, feel better, and that's what they do. Like, okay, if I buy this or I get this, that's why guys, no, I shouldn't say guys, I'm not going to be sexist. Midlife crisis individuals sometimes buy a car, and it's a fast car or a sports car, or do something they didn't do to do you believe that? Like it's filling a void, or we think it will?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we, sort of derisively when I was working my first job in New York called it cash therapy. When we were applying it to ourselves, I mean, have a bad day, go buy a T-shirt or, a bag or, a device for your kitchen or something.
Right.
I think we all do that, and there is sort of, maybe it's a dopamine hit, I'm not sure how those things break down, but, we get the pleasure from this acquisition. I'd like to think that one of the things that maybe it's age-related, but I'm kind of at that point where I can appreciate something without having to have it.
Right.
And, and this is maybe me being preachy, but I'd like to think that, I'm sorry about that, if we lived in a world where that was a little bit more prevalent, that things might be better.
And if, photography helps with that because my daughter and I went on a trip, was it a year ago? And I love to collect shells. Shells are free, but I see so much in them. It's beautiful. I take a walk along the ocean and I collect shells. So she's, like I said, she really likes photography. And so she took her pictures and I said, let me see the pictures on your card, see if there's anything I like. And there was this most gorgeous shell, okay? And she has a beautiful picture of it. And the wave is crashing gently on it. And I said, oh my gosh. That looks like the Virgin Mary. Where is that shell? She goes, I left it there. She goes, I said, really? She goes, I have a beautiful picture of it. I was like, but so it's like.
That is wonderful.
So I was like, okay. So it's taught me something so if I'm in a store or if I'm at a fair or something and I'm like, do I need that or do I just picture of that is just enough, And I've learned that, well, maybe I'll just take a picture of it, then I can remember it, show it to people, but I don't need to actually bring that home with me.
Absolutely. And yes, photography does fill that for me. I take pictures of old cars because there's so many of them around here. I don't need an old car. Right. I had one once. I don't want it, but I love the pictures.
Right. And then the other thing about commercials, okay, because some people like commercials, but commercials are memorable because we have, when we have meetings in here, I have to tell you that, the old shake and bake commercial? It's shake and bake and I helped. One of us will say that probably at least twice a month in a meeting because I don't know how it comes out, but it does. And then the other one is, remember, thanks for the gumball, Mickey. When and it's so there are, commercials that really stand out to us. And I think the craft and filming them and, all of that is just maybe not taken as seriously, but a lot of them, they're the backdrop of growing up, well, we can say, because we used to have commercials and now there's, my kids, I don't even think my kids know really what a commercial is. My kids don't watch a lot of TV and it's not like how we grew up. We had commercials.
It's definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
there's a big difference.
One of I'm kind of going to pat myself on the back. One of the things that I did when I was working in advertising, I was creative director of an ad agency. We had one of our clients was Visa, and I did a spot for Visa. We got to go to Morocco for this. And it's the Jeep is stuck in the sand, and the couple doesn't know what to do. The little kid appears, and Salvador is like, Etienne, fix. So I wrote that. And years later, I happened to be walking down the street, and somebody saw an ATM machine and said, Etienne, fix. And they're quoting my commercial from years before, and it gave me such a rush because I had contributed a little piece to our shared culture.
Right, yeah.
You know, something that it became shorthand. And yeah, it's just, there's something about that we get, you know, I say we, people who craft these messages, that's the gold standard. That's what you want to do. Where's the beef? I mean, geez.
Yeah. Right, I know. Like one night after a show, we just sat there and watched 70s commercials, right? And there was a time you couldn't wait for them to be up. But we had such nostalgia. Like, oh my gosh, I had that. Or remember that? Oh my gosh. You know, like the Prince Machiavelli, and she can fry it up in a pan. You know, all of that stuff that just isn't done like that anymore. I mean, the Super Bowl is probably the only time they really make a big to-do about ads. But, you know, it's not like how, it's just everything's changed. Everything's changed. Nobody really watches commercials the way we had no choice but to watch them. Right. So
yeah, and I think one of the sort of not very discussed consequences of the society we moved into with, you know, all the stuff that's on demand is we've lost a lot of patience. I mean, when you and I came up, if you wanted to hear a song, you turned on the radio and you waited and hoped. Now, if you want to hear a song, you just dial it up.
Yeah.
And my children won't understand that. You know, that they won't understand that if you needed to find out something, we'd have to go to the library, and if the book wasn't in, we would put in a little card and wait for it to show up. And now it's like everything's available instantly.
Absolutely.
And I think that does contribute to this because we can, not only is it available instantly, that makes it so much easier for us to acquire so many things.
Absolutely. And do you remember how serious the librarians were when we were in school about the Dewey Decimal System? Now, everybody must pay attention. You must learn about this Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
And switchboard operators, right? Somebody said they used to think that was a great job. And, you know, they don't understand, our kids don't understand. There was a real operator on the line, you remember? And stop monkeying around with the phone. Like, you're like, what the heck, right? There's somebody monitoring your phone use, you know?
Right.
Oh, my
gosh. The phone was
gosh.
connected to the wall. You can't walk into the other room.
Yes, and if you got an extra long phone cord, you were in heaven, right? Oh, I got the extra long phone cord. I can walk around. I can lay on the floor. But there's so many things. I mean, I tell my kids, you don't even understand. We didn't even have a VCR. The VCRs weren't invented. And if you saw, like, oh, Happy Days is going to be on or something, we would record it with a tape recorder and just listen to the audio after. And that was like, oh, my gosh, I'm listening to it again, right? You know, or you liked a Twilight Zone episode. You just had to pray that it was going to be, oh, please be this one. No. All right. Please be this one. No. It was never, you couldn't just go on Netflix and watch every episode you want and pick them out. You know, it's like, and when they had the marathon, that was great, but you still had to wait for your episode to come in. At least they had VCRs by then and you could record it. But there's, I mean, so much craziness we did. I'm just thinking, like, this tape recorder, I thought I was so great with that. I'm like, I'm listening to 8 is Enough from last night. It's crazy, but it is. It's instant gratification, and we've, like, even now, I find myself when I'm thinking about something from the past, and there was no Google back then, my mind will put in that I looked it up on Google or something. I'm like, what's going on? Really? There is no Google back then. Like, no, you know, it's just weird. It's become so commonplace to us. Like, if they took art away from us, I think we'd be like in straitjackets.
Yeah, I don't know how we ever found our way around anywhere. I mean, I had a pretty decent sense of direction, but without Google Maps or with the Apple Maps or whatever, like, geez, just getting someplace. I know when I'm going to get there, and I know how to get there, and I can see what the traffic is like. That's insane.
Yeah, and your little lady tells you, right?
Yeah. But they had these books in California called the Thomas Guide, and it was thick because LA is so big. And the map would tell you to go off, and it would tell you which page to connect to. So you flip to another page, and you'd follow it on there. And everybody had those, and we drove around with them in our passenger seats. And half the time we're looking down, going, "Oh, do I need to take a left up here?"
Right. Yeah, it's like the Rand McNally Road Atlas. That's what you took on a trip, right? Oh, yeah, we got to get 95 here, and it connects over here, and that's all you had. And there is no nothing you couldn't just go on your phone and find out how late that store is open, or see what the restaurants are around here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's great, but that's what our kids know, and to think that technology is going to be nothing when they're our age. They're going to be like, do you know we had to go to Google and look up this?
Yeah, you know how hard that was?
So, it's funny. It's how things evolve and change. But then yet, on the flip side of that, they're going back to the film cameras and the vinyl records. Right. So, I mean, that doesn't, that to that is like just so crazy. So, do you believe a commercial photographer or a technical writer can also be an artist?
I sure hope so. I mean, because that's my path. I mean, I think, sort of like what I was saying before, like I learned the craft of writing, but I didn't learn the art of writing, and I wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. I learned the craft of photography until I got to the point where I was ready to become, do the art of photography. So yeah, I think the advantage that I have with that background, my partner is a writer, and her writing is extraordinary. But I can bang out a novel in, 9 months because I know how to sit down and write on command, and I'm prolific because of my training. And that, that's an advantage. The disadvantage is the kind of writing that I was trained to do. I have to unlearn a lot of that in order to write something that's considered, literary.
Mm-hmm. I get it. And how do you define art or creativity versus work for hire?
Well, I think, it's one of those debates that a lot of people have is, well, what is art? For me, the approach is similar when I'm doing it for hire or when I'm doing it for myself. And the way I've sort of crystallized it for me is I like to, my sort of the gold standard for me is what I call finely crafted subversion. I want to challenge what you think you believe, and I want to do it in a way that's beautiful and not obvious, so that you're sucked into something and you go, oh. I think the difference for me is when you're doing it for hire, you're doing it because somebody else is telling you the message that needs to be communicated. When you're doing it for yourself, you're either starting from a message or you're finding the message, but it's about you. It's about what you're trying to get across.
Okay, and so in personal note, I see you mentioned your dog in your bio. What kind of dog do you have? Tell us about him or her.
Oh, my. Okay, so we have 4 dogs. I started with Milo, the best puppy ever.
Oh, I have
and
Milo.
That's part of his name. He's just this goofy, funny, now he's a cranky old man kind of dog. And then my partner works for the Humane Society, so she brought home this huge, I don't know what he is, but who's the sweetest dog ever. And then when my mom passed away, we got her 2 dogs. Now we have a bouquet, but Milo is the one that I refer to because he has a special place in my heart. He's such a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm. What kind of dog is Milo?
I don't know. I always thought of him as part poodle, part, I don't know. And he's acting more like a terrier.
Yeah.
He's white and curly haired, and he's kind of, he doesn't shed. So there's definitely poodle in him, but I'm not about breeds.
Right.
I've always had shelter dogs or rescue dogs or whatever.
Yeah, terriers are great dogs. Lots of personality. So much personality.
Personality in spades, this guy.
Right, yeah. I love that.
And he'll sit there and he'll talk to me, and I wish I knew what he was saying. He's like, huff, huff. I picture him, he's got this underbite, and like, it'd be nice to see him with like a cigar and a monocle. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Terriers, since my first terrier, I think I said I could never be without a terrier because they're packed with personality. And my Scottish Terrier female, she talks too. It's hysterical, It's like, it's just they're funny, they're goofy, and they're just I don't know, just something different. And I didn't have terriers growing up or anything. We had beagles, which were really, they were sweet dogs too. But and I had a Milo who was a rescue Basset Hound Beagle mix too.
Aww.
Yeah, we used to call it Miliotis. Yeah. I don't know how we got to that name, but it's always stuck.
Yeah, my dogs all get nicknames. It's so funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
You sing to yours because I sing to mine.
Well, no, they'd cry if I sing. So it's better that I don't do that. Let's see. What else do we talk about here? So I have here. Would you let us in on any particular valuable lessons that, and I'm not sure how I see this name in the book. Is it Janus in parts? Because it's Janusz.
Yeah. So Janusz is a character.
Oh, Janusz. Okay.
Yeah, he's a photography mentor. He teaches the main character in sort of flashback. He taught a workshop that this main character went to in Italy. And it was sort of based on a photographer that I had studied under, whose name I can't remember. It's been so long, and I feel terrible.
Yeah.
But one of the things that this photographer that I learned under said, it was just like this profound notion. He says, "Find the light, and the image will give itself to you." And it was eye-opening because he was right. I mean, you can take a picture of something mundane lit well, and to me, it's more extraordinary than something beautiful lit badly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as I progressed as a photographer and a director, I sort of compiled a lot of these rules for myself. And I gave them to this character, Janusz. And the point was, when he's making a point or passing on a lesson about photography, it's more than just photography. The main character, Alex, in the story isn't aware of it. But when he's saying things like, if you don't interrupt a pattern, then it's not worthwhile, which is the G-rated version of what Janusz says.
Mm-hmm.
In photography, what that means is when you see a composition, and in this example in here is like the vines in a vineyard, it's fine. But if you put the farmer walking through the row, all you see is his hat, you're interrupting the pattern, and that's what makes it have meaning. And then in the photographer's sense, that's what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
But in the life sense, what he's saying to Alex, sort of in Alex's memory, is, you're stuck in a pattern, dude. You need to break out of a pattern. And so that's what I try to do with these lessons, that find some ones that represent both photography and life, and give them to Janusz. And the reason that I give them to Janusz is sometimes it's hard to use language. If you're speaking as a Native American speaker, it's hard to bridge that notion of like that ambiguous, like, is this about photography or is this about life? So I made it Janusz.
Right, and in the book it says something about your first 10,000 pictures are, I don't know what you said, not good or not, what is it? They're essentially...
Yeah, so there's a famous photographer, Henri Cartier-Bresson, said the first 10,000 photographs you take are garbage.
Yeah.
And I think that's generally true. I mean, you have to learn how to do something before you can do something. I think we have this myth in our culture, and sometimes it's supported, where, the first time at bat somebody hits a home run. But you really do need to know, you need to learn how to do what you're doing before you can actually do it well. And sort of my own personal example of this is not my first book. Mm-hmm. I've written 4, 5 now. So now I know how to write a book. I hope. I'm getting better.
Right. About photography too, like when you're talking about how the digital has changed, and now we're not having to take out film, put it in, load it, then it's changed so much, because before, we had to think about, okay, well, that roll of film, do I really want to take a picture of that? We can take a picture of anything now. We can take, 1,000 pictures of a flower, 1,000 pictures of a bee. We don't have to worry. And then if we have continuous shooting, it's just like, right? So in a way, I I don't know. Yeah, I think it's made photography, it seems easier to get the best shot, right? Because we're to have so much we can work with and shoot.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I mean, when I learned photography, we had to worry about exposure. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and shutter speed, and then focal length, and how the aperture affect the depth of field, and all these other things. Now, I don't know if I should say this, but I have the fancy equipment back there in my little storage area, but I shoot everything on my phone. There's an app that I use where I can actually change the focal plane after I've taken the picture, and I can change the depth of field by changing the effective aperture, and the exposure is always perfect. That's insane.
Yeah. Our phones have come a long, long way. And, like, just think back to the days like when you had a baby and you had to go, oh my gosh, I've got to go get a camcorder, right? The beautiful thing is now nobody needs a camcorder, and they can take all these videos right from their phone. And that's a great thing, and I think leads to like way more capturing. Like if you were the fifth child, honey. Yeah, we just didn't, get it because the phone. Everybody's got a phone, right? You didn't have videos, or you had two videos, whereas your older brothers had like millions. But so I think that part has been really great. I thought about that the other day because I know like with every baby we're like, oh my gosh, we have to make sure we have a camcorder. Yeah, it was like a big thing, like hurry up, you're having a baby, you don't want to miss a moment of it. And that's what you had a camcorder or something. You didn't have anything in the phone, but now pictures. And like I just went on this mini vacation, and normally I'll take my Canons or something. All I took is my iPhone. That's all I took. I took the GoPro. The GoPro because we were going somewhere where there's a lot of action.
That's fine.
But there would be a time I would never go out without my camera. That forget it. And now, yes, the phone takes beautiful pictures, and it's easy and it's small, and I can put it in a waterproof pouch if we're in a water park or anything, and it's come a long way. And that technology is, really good. And I think that these millennials and stuff, while they want to go back in this vintage stuff, they still wouldn't give up their phones. And for them, I think what I see about the technology is their face is always in a phone, like whether you're riding on a train or anything. And I think they've lost some of the personal connection because a lot of them are on dating apps, like living in New York City, where you could meet people, so many people face to face, and I just think they're lacking in that. So what do you think?
It's a different world. I think there are advantages and disadvantages. When I was, when you and I were coming up, for me, dating was either you meet somebody at church or at work, or you were introduced. And I didn't go to church, and nobody could introduce me to anybody. So my dating pool was the people I worked with.
Right.
And then, now I haven't been dating in 4.5 years because I'm not my partner, but we met online. And one of the advantages of that is you get to sort of pre-screen.
Oh yeah, that I agree. For people that are old, like I don't want to say older, but I'm talking about like that. I totally agree. The pre-screening, like a non-smoker, likes dogs, or does whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of things you find out immediately about a person, so that you're not sitting down with them and they tell you they hate everything that you like, right? But what I'm saying is, people of our age, even if we go on an app like that, we're able to have a conversation. I think that the kids that have this, like they're walking, like they don't notice their surroundings even enough. They're so focused on their screen that they might miss like even chance meetings or like, just, I don't know. It's a healthy balance, I guess. And it's, hard, but I was watching, we were on a little vacation, and I saw something like little babies in there watching the phone, like while their parents are going around. They're not even seeing anything, not wanting to go on rides, not wanting to do anything. They're just watching this cartoon on a phone now, and so it's happening like almost out of the womb that they're just addicted to this technology.
Yeah, and one of the things that I find really disturbing is when you go to a place, I was in Venice and I saw so many selfie sticks and people taking pictures of themselves in front of things without seeming to turn around and look at the thing.
Right.
And that, like, you're saving an experience you're not even really having for the future memory of the recording of the experience, not the experience. Just, there's something that doesn't work for me about that.
Yeah, and my cousin's funny because I will. We have a lot of fireworks on our lake on the 4th of July, and my cousin, he's older than me, but he doesn't. He's very uses technology very little, so he'll always laugh when everybody's taking pictures of the fireworks or recording. He'll go, "How about when we just used to look at them and remember?"
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's like sometimes I guess that we're trying to get something, relive it again, just like a photograph, right? You want to live that memory. And so there's a balance there too, as being in the moment or, being so focused on photos. And I don't know if your kids have said this, but, and I know a lot of moms like who are behind the camera, and we're behind the camera. And I don't mean to be sexist. There's dads too behind the camera, but we're trying to make those memories, because we know, especially as we get older and we lose people, that photograph is so important. That, like one time we were on a hayride and I said to my kids, let me just take one, can we just get one picture? And they go, oh, really? And this man turned around and he goes, listen to your mother. Because one day, he said, one day you're going to treasure that picture. He said, so indulge your mother and take the one picture, because one day you're going to be so happy you took that picture. So my kids were like, okay. they took it.
And they probably treasure that picture now.
But it's like, kids get aggravated with like, I just want to go on that ride, right? Like, why do we have to take a picture here? But then they do enjoy looking back. So I think it's a balance. You don't want to be too overbearing with the pictures, but you also don't want to let everything escape without capturing anything. How do you feel?
So let me so a lot of your listeners, viewers are parents. And I'm going to give you advice which I stumbled onto, which turned out to be the most amazing thing that I figured out to do. I would have these incredible conversations with my kids, and I know every parent does. But immediately after I'd have a little conversation, I would write it down and I would post it to Facebook with a tag specifically for me. And it wasn't about putting it out for anybody else. It was about a journal. So I knew exactly what day it happened and what time. And sometimes I had a picture of the kids too. And now I've got years. And not only does Facebook serve it up to me, because every day it says, look back at your memories, but my kids love going through and seeing what, the funny, amazing, knuckleheaded things that they did when they were 4 and 7 or whatever. It's wonderful. If I'm ever having a bad day, all I have to do is look through that. I get tears, I get laughter, just reliving those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great thing too, because the same thing happens to me, and I'll see a note that I took that my son wrote, like, I love my mom, she takes care of me, and she gives me good food, or like it just says, that he's like 4, so it's like, oh my gosh. But I think that's part of stuff is great, because it keeps us organized. We remember, because we used to have a little calendar. We had to write down everything. Okay, so-and-so lost their first tooth, at this time. But now you snap a picture on your iPhone, they lost the tooth, and it's like there. And then you can post it somewhere, even like you said, if it's private, and I think keeping those memories and knowing when they happened is so much easier. So I love technology, but it's a balance, like with anything else in life. It's just a balance. There's pros and cons to it, and would I ever say I wish for it to be gone? No, because I'm just as dependent on it as the next person. And I think it's opened up so many doors. Look at YouTube, we can have a talk show, right? If we didn't have YouTube, we couldn't, we can do things that we probably never could have. Like, we're not going to be on NBC, but we can have a talk show, and we can, have a craft show, have a cooking show. My whole life when I was a little kid, I used to narrate recipes. Like, I'm making oatmeal raisin cookies now. But you can do it now. You can really be whatever you want, right? So that's, just wonderful. And during COVID, we saw that a lot of the people that did talk shows and stuff were coming to YouTube. And but something happened with movies. Don't you think something happened with movies since then? Movies are not a big deal like they used to be.
They're not, and I miss that. I like movies. I like movies because there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I like a story that's contained. I always had a harder time with television because, there would be another episode next week.
Yeah.
And movies can be big, but what seems to have happened with movies is they're falling into that pattern with television. So everything has to be part of a franchise. The franchise has to keep going until nobody shows up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a lot of this, what makes it special to me. And I do think that there are phases in movies, and part of it's because I'm not paying as much attention to the independent movie scene as I used to because I'm not working in that world as much anymore. But you see these blockbusters, and my kids for a long time were watching the Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be, Spider-Man lived in Spider-Man's world, and Iron Man lived in Iron Man's world. But now all the worlds are combined, and their powers are interchangeable, and somebody can take Captain America's sword shield and throw it just as well as he can. And it's like, what happened to this is this thing for this character doing these things?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not crazy about that.
My kids were they love Marvel too, but they were kind of clued into the magic of the movies early on because my son Ethan went to school with Mark Ruffalo's daughter. So as a little kid, and Mark he'd tell us, this is the Hulk, but I know he doesn't look like the Hulk, okay? And Mark is just the greatest guy you've ever met. He's so down to earth. He was on, but my kids they would tell at family functions no, I go to school with his daughter, okay, and he doesn't look like the Hulk. There was how's this guy turn into the Hulk? So it was funny because but they love Marvel nonetheless, but they know it's all that's it. It's all made up of people that look like Mark, or so just regular people with a lot of graphics and makeup and all that stuff. So, but that was funny. I think that those are some of the memories I laugh with my son about because it was great. And I don't know. I think the movies, though, it's like we were trying to think it's all changed. Everything goes right to, it seems like, Netflix or something before it's even out. And I was thinking what are even some of the new movies that are out? I couldn't even think of them. And the Academy Awards and everything, I used to watch that so much, I don't even watch it anymore because it's everything comes and goes, and it's more the series, more the, everything's going to that. It's almost like going the way of malls, okay? So pretty soon maybe we won't even have movies, it'll just go right to those multi-part series. I don't know.
Right?
Everything's changing so much.
It is changing. But, when you think about it, okay, when the malls came in, the thing that people, complained about is nobody's going to Main Street anymore. So, everything, the things that we hold up as nostalgic were replacing the things that other people held up as nostalgic before.
Yeah, it's very strange because, when you think about it, I'll be out and I'll be like, well, how come they don't go to the stores in the mall, but we'll go, in the strip mall kind of thing? How does that? How did that happen? Why did someone say, "Well, I don't really want to go to Macy's anymore"? Or I don't, it's just, it's weird. I'm trying to figure that out, trying to rationalize in my own brain. But then so many people are shopping online, but then still, when they go out, it's more to kind of strip mall kind of thing, or the main street, or instead of the mall, and the malls are just dying. So. Yeah, it's such weird things. I ponder these things sometimes in the middle of the night, and it's crazy. I drive myself crazy with this stuff. But I have some books, that I'm thinking of. But it's a lot of stuff that I think about. But it's just, I think it's our own coming of age as we're going into an age, and we see. Tell me if you see this. When you think of your mother or your father at your age, do you yourself feel that you're a lot younger acting and everything than they were at that age.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I've asked so many people.
It's real.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it is.
The numbers get bigger, and it's like, so I look at the age I'm at, is that possible? Every year you add another digit.
Yeah, but I think it is true because, like, okay, I live on a lake, and this lake is compromised of just but maybe 30 homes, and the majority of these people I grew up with as kids. So the homes have transferred from like parents to the kids. So we've all grown up together, and so it's a beautiful thing. Like, I'll see my neighbor, like 60, going by in a kayak. Hi, and I grew my entire life. I grew up with him. My cousin lives on this lake. So I said to my cousin one day, because we're all doing stuff. We're still swimming, kayaking, sailing, all that stuff. I said, think about our parents at this age. Sure, my mother swam and stuff, but my mother wasn't like out on a bodyboard, stand-up paddleboard. I mean, she wasn't like doing all of that. The neighbors who were their parents weren't doing that. So I said to my cousin, do you think like we're just younger and just we're doing more stuff? He said, yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think it is. I mean, I just and I want to keep doing that. I promised myself as a little kid, because when I was like 4 or 5, my mom's brother came to just the lake, and he was probably at the time, he probably was maybe even 50 years old, but he went running right off the dock. He did like this cannonball and something, and I said at that moment, I am never going to stop doing that, never. And till this day, that's it. I had like one of my friends on the phone. I said, tell me to go jump in the lake. And she said, Carolyn, go jump in the lake. And I said, listen. And I jumped right off the dock into the lake. And I said, I'm just going to keep doing that as long as I can. Ride my bike, do this, whatever. Because I don't want to become, where I can't do things with my kids. That's, that can happen too soon for any of us. I want to be there with them and doing all this stuff. And right. So I think we are kind of doing more than our parents did, and not to say like our parents were not active. Like maybe they played tennis and stuff, but it's just like I think we're doing more adventurous things, and not settling into like, oh well, that you can't, that you're too old for that. Don't.
Right, yeah. I think that's really the bottom line is we don't have that messaging that they had when they were kids. That, you grow out of something. You're too old to go, jumping in lakes.
Riding bikes. Like even bikes. Like I don't think our parents rode a lot of bikes. I mean, my mom did, but then it just stopped really. And it's like now you're getting a lot of people that are getting on a bike like competitively for the first time in their later years. And so I think it's great in that respect, but everything's changed. But it's been lovely talking to you. I want to show that the Sultan of Garbage is the new book. It's debuting today. The link is pinned at the top. It's in the video description, and Brian's website is in there too. Everybody's saying you guys, if you have any quick questions, put them up. But they're all saying they love this conversation. They're buying your book. And let's see. Yeah, they're talked about the commercial. There's a lot of nostalgia. You'll have to go back and read the chat. Sometimes it takes a while to load up after we do the live stream. But what I also do is after this video goes up, which will be right away, I go into the comment section and I'll pin something where they can put any questions for people that watch afterwards, because we get a lot of people that watch afterwards because we're all over the world, and some of our people are in Australia and the UK, and so they watch at different times. And you can check back there and answer any questions they might have. But I think they've really enjoyed this. If you don't use it, you lose it, Linda says, and she should know. Yeah, she's very active. She's going up to Woodstock this weekend. She's coming from Virginia to go back to Woodstock, where she remembers that well. But fantastic. Great chat. Well, thank you so much, everybody, again. And do you have anything else you'd like to add, or that anybody should know before we go?
Well, you know what, Carolyn, I'm just so glad that you had me on. Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Come back anytime. We had a great chat.
Oh, I'll take your word on that.
Okay. All right. Take care, Brian. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, everybody. I appreciate Brian's time. That was very nice. It was a pleasure. I hope you guys all had a good time. Check out his book, and I'll see you a little later, okay? I got to try to catch up on with some stuff here. All right, guys. Love you. God bless. Bye-bye.